what do they say? Are you not entertained? Right? Yeah.
Everybody good? All right, Coach, whenever you're ready, sir.
Excuse me. Okay. Let me say this. I think when you get to a day like today, realization is it takes a team of people, and I think we're very fortunate at the University of Florida that we have a great team. Can't thank the administration enough relative to what they've done in the first 2 years here to improve our process, to improve the experience of the player, to give us an opportunity to compete and sign the very best players in the entire country. And we did that today. I want to thank our coaches that have been on the road. Our on-the-field coaches go on the road for 2 weeks here. A little over that. We put Callie James on the road, Chad Lucas on the road, and both of those guys did a terrific job. And certainly Coach Harris, to have an opportunity to get out there a little bit, was impactful as well. We've got great people in our personnel department. Jacob LaFrance, Nick McDonald, Joe Hamilton was an all-star in this cycle. Bird Sherrill. We've got really, really good people in the back there. I can't compliment them enough relative to the evaluation process, the roster management process. Young, talented, and certainly their work ethic was impressive. I think we improved there. The on-campus recruiting department, Bree Wade was exceptional. We added Skylar Wise to the mix here halfway through the process there, and she did a great job. And certainly Katie Turner's leadership in that recruiting strategy role across the board. Again, another all-star that is a difference maker, and I think we all can agree to that. We've got great pilots that work around the clock, and they did their job and were a difference maker for us. I think the players did a nice job in this cycle. I can't compliment them enough in terms of the messaging, their ability to resonate with the players, their families. They're the best recruiters that we have, right, relative to their experience here. And we'd be remiss if we didn't thank Florida Victorious. And certainly we spent probably 18 months working towards a true systematic approach there. We've got great leadership there. Jose Costa, Nate Barbera, their time investment and a number of investors that have certainly impacted our ability to recruit at a high level. A lot of local venues. Spurrier's has been outstanding. We certainly appreciate Coach and Freddie and all that they do to help us. 1908 Grand was impactful this year, and Hotel Elio as well. So it's a good group top to bottom. I know you got a lot of questions here. We do have a mix of high school and portal to talk about today. But I think, there's a few positions left. We're going to try to fill some holes here. But 19 of these guys are mid-year. And I do think that we've got a little bit of room here to work. It's a mid-year spot. So I know you got questions. What do we got?
Bill, you mentioned the coaches that were able to go out on the trail, Callie and Chad. Last time we spoke with you, there were obviously two different coaches in those spots. Can you take us into the decision to move on from those coaches and bring in new guys?
Sure, yeah. I think part of leadership is making tough decisions. And I think that ultimately we felt like we needed to make changes there, right? New voices, new leaders, new teachers. Those are tough. Ton of respect for Sean and Corey. They're exceptional in what they do, but we felt we needed to make a change. And certainly excited about the new faces that we've been able to add, right? So, this is a production business. We all understand that. And ultimately, it's part of leadership.
How did those changes affect this recruiting class? Obviously, there were some, losses at those positions in particular.
Which positions?
The defensive back and the defensive line.
What losses at those two positions?
Coaching staff.
Commitment.
Oh, yeah,
multiple
it's
commitments
coaching
that
staff.
left the
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
class.
I don't think we lost players at those two positions. Fills me. Yeah, I mean, I think that was in the works prior to making that change. But I do think that we were able to get commitments at those positions as well, you know. So I think there's a little bit of both there, if that makes sense. Ultimately, the position coach is part of the equation, but it's not the end-all, be-all, right? And I think the cycle probably proves that, right? We may have lost one player, but we also added players at those positions. So, good question.
A lot of nice pieces in this class, but some pieces that maybe were expected at one point didn't make it into the class. It reached as high as number 3 in the rankings, and I don't know where it sits now, but it's
16.
dropped precipitously. I mean, is that just the way it's going to be with after a season like you guys had, and is it just harder to, convince guys to get on board then?
Yeah, I mean, I think you see it all across the country, right? I mean, I think down to the finish line, there's an element to recruiting. It's a battle, right? There's no question about it. We're here today to talk about the players that we got, and we got some elite players, right? We got elite people. We got leaders. We have young men that were up for the challenge, right? Some weren't up for the challenge, right? But this group, okay, that we're here to talk about today and celebrate today, decided, hey, you know what? I believe in what's happening there. I'm up for the challenge. So, I think ultimately for me, I respect the group that's committed, that's signed today, that is excited about the work that's in front of us. And that's what I'm here to talk about. I'm not here to talk about those other situations.
DJ Lagway, to that point, that was going to be my follow-up. His buy-in, he committed more than a year ago. He's been on campus more than I have, and he's just been bought in from day one and sealed the deal today. What does that mean and say about him?
DJ, the biggest compliment I can give DJ is that as much attention as he has received throughout the recruiting process, he's a better human being. He's a better leader. His character, his faith, his example, the way he treats people, his work ethic, his focus, his drive to get better. Yesterday in particular, the guy got up 4:30 a.m. He worked out. He drove 45 minutes. He did a throw-in session. He accepts a National Player of the Year award. And then he calls and says, hey, let's jump on a Zoom here and talk about formations and motions, right? So, that's the type of young man we're talking about here, right? There's substance to him, right? And I think he's been raised by an exceptional family. Derek and DJ Lagway are the consummate example relative to, parenting and what they've instilled in that young man, right? I went to Willis last week. I had a chance to observe DJ and his team get recognized at the local school board meeting, right? And to see him with his teammates in that community that he got recruited to leave, but he stayed there with his roots where his family grew up, right? He left that place better than he found it, right? And ultimately, we all know DJ's talented, but, that's not what makes him exceptional in my opinion, right? It's these intangible things that make him a difference maker. So DJ Lagway, he's talented, but there's a lot more to that young man than just the talent.
Graham to kind of teach DJ, whether it's film preparation, taking care of your body, how much, I guess, do you expect Graham to kind of help mold and help DJ grow?
Yeah, I told DJ last week, I think that it's probably when we look back at DJ's career, we're going to say that one of the more impactful decisions in his career was the fact that Graham Mertz made a decision to play an additional year of football. And I think Graham's a professional. He certainly had a good year, but I think more importantly, DJ's going to get a chance to observe a guy who knows how to prepare, knows how to lead, understands the attention to detail, the discipline, What does that year-round process look like to be a college quarterback at this level? And DJ's transition would have been a lot more difficult if Graham wasn't here. So, you know, DJ's the type of guy who is going to come in and he's going to embrace that. And I can say that Graham is the same type of leader. He's confident enough and selfless enough. Those two guys are very much like-minded, and they're going to hit the ground running here. It won't be long. So I think we're going to look back and say, you know what, that was a huge decision relative to DJ's long-term career.
Got 4 in the portal. Would you talk about those 4? And then would you expand upon that about how many more do you anticipate that you're going to be landing out of the portal, or is that a fluid situation?
Yeah, so, you know, I think Joey Slackman would be the first to talk about. You know, Joey was a Conference Player of the Year at Penn, 6'3.5", 295. He's got good length. He's a former wrestler. You know, the film was impressive. You know, I think he got 20-plus offers, you know, pretty quickly in the cycle. We started communication. He came on official visit. And I would tell you, like, I wasn't expecting the height and length that walked in the door. And then, more importantly, when this guy started engaging our staff and people throughout the organization, he made an impression. He left an impression. You know, this guy's got leadership. He's got a motor. He's driven. He's ambitious, and he's got a plan, right? So, but the number one thing I would say about Joey, our players love the guy, okay? I mean, this guy leaves campus after official visit, and I'm getting calls and texts every day about Joey Slackman and how, man, we got to get that guy on our team, right? So, you know, I think just his personality and demeanor resonated with our players, all parts of our team, you know, not just that position group, but offensive players, specialists, defensive players. So I was really impressed with Joey, and certainly we're excited about getting here and getting to work. Let's see who else. Triquez Bridges is height, length, speed, a ton of production. You know, the guy's played corner, but he's got some position flexibility, can play safety, very intelligent, was on the leadership council at Oregon, and got 1 year of eligibility, and I think looking to create some more value for himself a little bit closer to home, right, being from Lynette, Alabama. So really excited about the flexibility that he offers and the experience he has. Chimere DK is a receiver from Wisconsin who was played with Graham. You know, Chim is 6'1" change, about 185 pounds. He's a 10, 800-meter guy and very productive. 2 years ago, he's got some flexibility inside, outside, but, you know, polished player, a very consistent, dependable player that I think brings some speed. But he's a very smart, mature, aware player. He's got a ton of experience. Certainly there's a relationship with Graham there that helped. Who else do we got? Okay, Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, 6'7", 310, you know, 35 arm. You know, he's played, I think, 2,500 snaps. He started 35-plus games. Very productive player, all-conference player in the Mountain West. And equally as impressive when you meet him. You know, good compliments out there relative to great teammate, toughness, leadership, smart player, looking to play against better competition. Very similar dynamic to maybe what Saibo was trying to do when he came here, right? So, you know, I think we added 7,000-plus snaps, over 100 starts with just those 4 players alone. We've got some more work to do in the portal. I do think the number you're juggling here is the mid-year number, right? So we will have a little bit of flexibility there and have the capability of adding a few more players.
Billy, on the transfer portal, I think you guys have had 16 players announce that they plan to go elsewhere. Is that a level of attrition that you expected at this point? And is there a level of concern with however many it was that you brought here that are players that have signed here under you?
Yeah, no, I think you know, a little bit of the attrition was expected, much like we've discussed before. I mean, I think you look across college football right now, I think we're probably below average to some degree. So I think each one of these situations is a little bit different. I respect all the decisions. And like I mentioned before, you're either in or you're out. You know, my message was don't come back in January unless you're fully committed to what we want to do as a team, right? So, and I think of those 16, there's a handful of walk-ons. There's a handful of guys that are getting their degree. Some of those are relative to role in the team. And then there's a couple that, you know, we probably would like to have back. But I don't think it's going to change. I think every year you're going to face a very similar situation. It's just a new element to roster management in college football.
Would you prefer something that's more like transfer in December and then you put signing day back to where it was in February?
Yeah, we got to do something. I'll tell you that much. We got to do something. Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is you get, you know, I think most coaches are going to tell you that June is a challenge and then December is a challenge, right? So, you know, the end of the season, the portal opening, official visits paired with early signing period, bowl prep, staff changes. I mean, you're juggling a lot of balls here, right? So we got to do something, you know, and I think ultimately we've added a layer of work here, right, relative to roster attrition, but also you got to fill those needs, right? So as you can see, you do your best to oversign to some degree, anticipate attrition, and then you got to make a lot of tough decisions. So the second portal period presents an opportunity to kind of correct any issues you have. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot. I think there's a lot of things that need to be fixed in college football right now, and that's one of them.
Like LJ, how difficult is it to get somebody like him who's very highly sought after over the line when you don't have a coach at his position officially?
Well, he's going to play on the edge for us. Mike Peterson, you know, has been recruiting him. You know, we kind of see him in that F mode. He certainly's got a lot of position flex, but, you know, we were able to cross that bridge. You know, it wasn't a factor. I think we're in a position here where we'll have an announcement in the next couple of days, and certainly that wasn't a factor. You know, we were able to bridge that gap. So, yeah, I mean, I think LJ, you know, one thing I'll say about LJ that I respect about him is he is up for the challenge. You know, and we talked to LJ in the very beginning of the process. You know, LJ's an alpha. He's a leader. He's an elite competitor. And he's done very similar things at his high school. And I think he's got that type of presence and that type of voice, and he's an impact player, right? So there's a handful of players in this class, LJ being one of them, Miles Graham being one of them, DJ Lagway being one of them, that were leaders the entire time. LJ's got a terrific family. You know, Dad's got a coaching background. His mom is incredible. You know, sister's a very impressive young lady. I mean, there's substance there, and I think ultimately LJ was up for the challenge, and he's going to be a difference maker here for sure.
I was hoping you could provide some clarity on the future of the strength and conditioning program heading into January for winter workouts.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, like we talked about previously, we're kind of we've been in an evaluation mode, and I do anticipate some different leadership there, different approach there. You guys all know Mark. Mark's an unbelievable leader, person. He's done a great job for me personally for 6 years. I can't compliment him enough in terms of character, loyalty. And one of the things that Mark and I have always talked about is kind of like what's next for him in his career. And ultimately, we're going to try to help Mark with that. He's going to be doing different things for our organization, you know, a lot more upstairs, you know, kind of making some of that transition into the coaching element. He's always had aspirations to do those things, and I think that presents an opportunity for us to bring new leadership from a strength and conditioning standpoint. So, and I do think that we're right in the middle of that process. So, but I can't compliment Mark enough relative to the work he's done for us. We wouldn't be here without Mark Hockey. So I'm excited about helping Mark, you know, pursue some of these things that he and I have always discussed.
Follow up on that evaluation process. Do you anticipate any changes to the offensive staff in that competition?
Yeah, it's to be determined. I think much like we discussed before, we're in the middle of that. We're going to go through, I think it's one box at a time here, right? So, we're going to have new leadership in the nutrition area. Excited about potential candidates there, and then we've got a lot of other areas, much like most years, where we're going to do some things to try to improve all parts of our team.
That a new defensive line coach is in place. Is that accurate in terms of getting some?
That announcement, as soon as we can, we'll get it to you. But we've been going through that process, and I feel good about where we landed.
Crenshaw Dixon, but 5 offensive linemen, very sizable guys. I assume some tackles, some true tackles in there.
Sure.
How important is that to get that area of your team maybe a little bit beefed up?
Yeah, for sure. I think in particular, height, length on the edges. I think Fletcher Westfall in particular, let's see here, Mike Williams, both of which I think you look at height, length, we're talking about 6'8", 330, 6'6", 308. Mike Williams is a football junkie, and a phenomenal family. We kind of had to get out of our footprint there. But, I go up to see Mike, we're sitting down, and this guy starts talking football. It's like talking to a coach. He's a student of the game. He's talking about speed rush, speed to power, long arm, ghost, double hand swipe, all the things he does to combat those things. He's got football pedigree. He's a worker, and I'm excited about Mike. He's a very bright, smart young man. He's got great presence to him. And Fletcher Westfall, I can't compliment Fletcher enough in terms of the recruiting process. I think his mom and dad and Fletcher executed that process. Just total professionals, educated, flipped over every rock. Fletcher's a unique athlete. You look at junior tape to senior tape, he may have made the biggest jump of any player in this class, and he'll be here mid-year. He's 330. He looks like he's 260. So Fletcher's going to make us better. And then the inside players, Maskell has position flexibility. He's got height and length as well. He plays at a really good program, and I think he's played a lot of football. He's 4 3/4. He's a lean 285. He's played some tackle and some guard. And then Noel Portajagan. Yeah, he made.
How long that take you to?
Yeah, me and Rick were working on it earlier. Yeah. Noel Portajagan, when you get a chance to meet this guy, this is one heck of a story, right? This guy's 19 years old. He's been playing semi-professional football, plays against 20 and 30-year-old men. Tuesdays and Thursdays, he gets in a van and drives an hour and a half, for team practice, and then gets in the van and drives back to his community. He does individual practice the other days of the week. This guy is a freak athlete. He does some things. He's 6'5", 330 pounds. He runs around. Go watch his tape. This guy's one of the more impressive players in the class. He comes to our camp. We see him, and it's immediate. Like, who is he? And then he goes to every camp he goes to. He gets a scholarship offer, and Brandon Collier has a unique organization that takes international players, brings them over here in the summer, and gets them exposure and creates opportunity. And Brandon's a phenomenal human, has passion to help young people, and he's using football in some of these unique areas of our world, and it's creating opportunities. And Noel is a great example. But Noel, he'll be here soon, and this guy's really, I don't even think he's ever lifted weights, he's started like a couple weeks ago. So he's a heck of an athlete, very bright, speaks 3 languages. He's impressive.
Billy, were you surprised by Trevor Etienne leaving? And it's a unique dynamic, the portal. Next season you're going to be facing, Princely is going to be on senior night, for example.
Yeah, I think, I think Trevor's been great for the Gators. You know, that's what I would say. I've got nothing but respect for Trevor. His attitude, his practice habits, his contribution to the team, nothing but respect. We wish him well going forward.
I understand why you don't want to talk about the guys who flipped and aren't here, but what would you say to people who are talking so much about it? I mean, social media was a buzz today, and, sort of sky is falling narrative developed.
Yeah. I think we anticipated some attrition. Reality is we might have been okay with some of it, So, I think you find out a lot about where you're at when you go through a process and how things are handled to some degree. So, look, it goes back to if you don't want to be here, let's go ahead and get that out of the way now, especially in today's dynamic, right? Because they, if they get it wrong now, then, maybe it's not right for them, So, look, we've got a couple different opportunities here going forward to add players. I'm looking for players that want to play at the University of Florida. It means something. It is a privilege. It's a sacred opportunity to be a part of this place. So, look, it's for some and it's not for some, okay? So, ultimately, recruiting is a battle, and I think every team across the country, it's down to the wire, So, I'm excited about the players that we added to our team. And I can say, looking down the list here, there's some great stories. These two backs that we added to our team, they're both exceptional, okay? Kanan Daniels rushed for 2,700 yards. He's a team captain. He won a state championship. He's player of the year in his classification at Mississippi. He's got a phenomenal story when you get a chance to get to know KD and the things he's overcome and the people that have impacted his life, the program that he plays for, the toughness. You're from West Point, Mississippi. You're a tough dude. And he's been a guy that sets the tone in the program. Not only a tough program, but we got the toughest dude out of a tough program, right? So KD it's impressive to watch his body of work as a runner. And Jaden Ball, in my opinion, if you just go watch senior film and that guy's 6 foot 3/4, he weighed 230 pounds on his official visit, and he's carrying the ball, running routes, playing safety, linebacker, wildcat quarterback. You go in his school, he's the president in that place. I mean, he's, every teacher, every administrator that you meet, Jaden Ball is an exceptional young man, right? So his mom and dad are incredible, right? So a lot of great stories in this group.
Miles Graham, local guy, and a guy that you and your staff obviously got to watch closely this year. What are your thoughts about what he can provide for the defense?
He's a legacy, and there's just something in Miles Graham that's different, because of that, right? I think Miles was our first commitment, and he was my last home visit, right? And you're sitting at that dinner table in his home, and you're observing his mom, his dad, his sisters, his cousins, and you observe that, and you listen to their story, and it's in him, right? He cares about this place, and I think he's an exceptional football player, but, this guy's a leader, man. He's got presence. He's articulate. This guy's going to do a lot more than just be a great football player for the Gators. So, Miles, pretty well documented that he's not just a great linebacker. He's a heck of a running back too, right? So, Miles he's ready to go too. He's physical. He's mature, very smart player. And he's been very consistent and vocal, right? And I think that it's one of the reasons we were able to finish with a really good group is because of his leadership presence and the way he kind of carried the flag for this class.
Last question. Losing Ricky and losing Caleb, you needed to fill in that wide receiver. You talked about DK, but you also signed Jeray Hawkins and Twaski Abrams. Can you talk about them a little bit?
Yeah, speed, and more speed, right? 10.5, 10.3. You know, I think Tank is probably one of the more electric skill players in the country. Took a huge step forward, I think, this year at IMG, just relative to adding some play strength, run the full route tree, inside and outside, dynamic returner. Phenomenal story coming down from West Virginia. You know, Tank's been incredible to get to know and work with, and he's, I mean, immediately when you see this guy on ground level, there's just a different level of speed, right? He'll immediately be the fastest player on our team, and I think he's got a chance to change the game. So TJ Abrams is almost a running back build. You know, he's 190 pounds at 5'10" and change. He's got 10-inch hands. He's long. He's 33-inch arm for 5'10". He's a big man, and he's got, you know, a ton of versatility. You know, 500 meters now, that's rolling, you know, especially at 190. And, you know, he's another guy. He's taking AP stats. You know, I mean, his mom, Miss China, is awesome, and he's just got character in his school. You know, you go in there, he's one of the leaders in the school and certainly was a leader on that team, which had a really historic year for that program. So their coach has done a really good job there.